Have you ever thought about, say, the Tylenol you take? Or maybe checked a food label? Or even considered a medical device some of you know uses? There's a whole system behind making sure those things meet certain standards. Quality, safety.
Right. And a big part of that is the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, specifically their quality system regulations, or QSR.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today.
Yeah, our goal here isn't to drown you in technical terms or, regulatory jargon.
No, definitely not.
We want to give you a clear picture of what these rules are and really why they matter so much for the products you use every single day.
We've been looking at a pretty comprehensive document that lays out the FDA's QSR for, well, big three: pharma, food, and medical devices.
It covers the regulations themselves, what's new, the kind of hurdles companies face, and the best ways to actually comply.
So think of this as your inside track, understanding this often unseen part of how products get to you safely.
Because honestly, even just grasping the main ideas gives you real insight. You start to see the processes behind the scenes, ensuring quality and safety from the pharmacy shelf to your kitchen counter.
We're aiming for those aha moments, but without the textbook overload.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's jump in. First off, this QSR thing, it's not just one giant rule book for everyone, is it?
No, not at all. The FDA tailors its approach. It has to, really. You've got pharmaceuticals, food, medical devices. They're very different beasts.
So different sectors, different rules.
Pretty much. So for pharma, we're talking drugs. Biologics, they operate under what's called current good manufacturing practices.
Yeah.
cGMP.
GMP, right?
Yeah.
Heard that term.
It's laid out in the regulations, 21 CFR Parts 210 and 211, and the core idea is building strong quality systems, everything from manufacturing itself to the paperwork, the testing.
So for the medicine we rely on, it's about making sure it's not contaminated,
Yeah.
has the right strength.
Exactly. Potency, purity, consistent quality batch after batch. That's the goal.
And I gather there's more focus now on data, like the records.
Oh, absolutely. Data integrity is huge, making sure those batch records are accurate, complete, and also fostering a quality culture within companies. Getting everyone focused on quality to, cut down on simple human mistakes.
Okay, makes sense. What about the food on our plates?
Well, for food, the big driver is FSMA, the Food Safety Modernization Act, and the relevant regulation is 21 CFR Part 117.
FSMA. That shifted things towards prevention, didn't it?
Precisely. The focus is on preventive controls. Companies need to do hazard analysis, figure out the risks, and put controls in place before something goes wrong. It's often called HARPC hazard analysis and risk-based preventive controls.
So less reacting to outbreaks, more proactively stopping them.
That's the idea. Minimize contamination risks from the start. Plus, the FDA keeps a close eye on traceability, knowing where food comes from and goes.
Traceability. For recalls.
Yep, and sanitation, of course. Allergen controls, too. That's a big one. Trying to prevent those recalls for undeclared allergens.
Which the source material mentioned was a bit of an issue in 2023.
It was, yeah. A noticeable uptick in food safety violations leading to recalls, undeclared allergens, bacterial contamination. It really underscores why these rules are so critical.
A stark reminder. Okay, so that's pharma and food. What about medical devices? Things like pacemakers or hip implants?
Right, so medical devices fall under 21 CFR Part 820, but this is where things are getting really interesting right now. There's a major change coming.
Oh, what's happening?
They're transitioning to something called the Quality Management System Regulation, or QMSR. And the big deal is it's aligning with an international standard, ISO 13485.
ISO 13485.
So making U.S. rules line up with global ones.
Essentially, yes. It's probably the biggest regulatory shakeup for devices in, decades. The effective date is February 2nd, 2026, so companies are gearing up now.
Wow. Okay, aligning with global standards, what does that mean in practice? More scrutiny?
We definitely expect that, yes.
Okay.
Particularly around design validation, proving the device actually works safely for its intended use.
Makes sense. Also, risk management, identifying and controlling potential hazards, and supplier controls, making sure all the parts and materials are up to snuff. Those areas will likely get even more focus.
So, big changes for device makers. Let's talk more about recent updates. You mentioned the QMSR alignment. Anything else significant happening across the board? We touched on food recalls.
Yeah, in food safety, besides the ongoing push for those preventive controls and sanitation, the food traceability final rule is a huge one. It came out in 2022.
Traceability again. What does this new rule do?
It sets stricter requirements, especially for high-risk foods. Think leafy greens, some types of fish, deli salads. By January 2026, companies dealing with these need much better systems for tracking them through the supply chain.
Better record keeping.
Much better, yeah. Comprehensive records. The goal is, if there is a contamination issue, they can trace it back and forward much faster. Pinpoint the problem quickly.
Speeding up recalls, limiting the damage.
Exactly. And there's also more emphasis on using real-time monitoring for food safety checks.
Okay, that's significant for food. What about the pharma world? Any recent regulatory shifts there?
Well, one interesting development is the FDA's Quality Management Maturity Pilot Program, QMM.
QMM. What's the aim there?
It's trying to push companies beyond just basic compliance, to encourage them to really invest in continuous improvement of their quality systems. It's sort of like aiming for an A grade, not just a pass.
Going beyond the minimum requirements.
Right. Separately, though, data integrity is still a major headache for the industry and the FDA.
Still, even with all the focus.
Oh, yeah. Violations related to bad data, inaccurate, incomplete, not recorded properly, there's still a top reason for FDA warning letters.
So what are they emphasizing?
The LCOA principles. Making sure data is attributable, legible, contemporaneous, original, and accurate. LACOA. And robust electronic record systems are basically essential now.
Got it. ALCOA.
And one other thing, FDA inspections are definitely ramping up again post-pandemic. So companies really need to be ready for an inspection pretty much any time. Year-round readiness is key.
Okay, so continuous readiness. It sounds like even with specific rules for each sector, there are common threads. But following all this, it can't be easy for companies, right? What are the typical roadblocks they hit?
Oh, absolutely not easy. There are definitely common challenges. One of the biggest is just poor documentation and data integrity issues.
We keep coming back to data.
We do. It's fundamental. You see things like incomplete batch records, maybe testing data isn't recorded properly, transcription errors. It's a huge red flag for inspectors.
So how do companies tackle that? What's the fix?
Well, technology helps a lot. Implementing electronic quality management systems, EQMS, can really streamline things, reduce errors.
Standardize the process.
Exactly. And training, of course. Making sure employees know exactly how to record data correctly. Plus, doing regular internal audits helps catch problems early.
Okay. Another term I hear a lot is KPA, corrective and preventive action. What goes wrong there?
KPA is crucial. It's how companies fix problems and stop them from happening again. But a common pitfall is, well, not digging deep enough to find the real root cause.
Just fixing the symptom, not the disease.
Kind of, yeah. You might fix the immediate failure, but if you don't understand why it failed, was it a design flaw? A supplier issue? Bad training? The problem will likely just pop up again later.
So they need better investigation.
Better root cause analysis, definitely. And a more proactive approach. Not just waiting for things to break, but actively looking for potential issues.
And prioritizing.
Yes, focusing on the high-risk stuff first. And crucially, checking later if the fix actually worked long-term. Tracking effectiveness is key.
Right. What about the actual manufacturing? The processes themselves?
Process validation and control, that's another tricky area. You have to scientifically prove your process consistently makes good product.
Prove it works reliably.
Every time. The challenge often lies in doing enough validation up front or sometimes failing to revalidate after making changes.
Like if they change equipment or maybe a raw material.
Exactly. Any significant change might impact the process, so you need to confirm it still works as expected. Lack of revalidation is a common finding.
So what's the best practice there?
Using solid scientific methods for the initial validation. Then, continuously monitoring the process, things like control charts, help spot drifts, and having clear rules for when revalidation is needed.
Okay. And companies don't make everything themselves. Suppliers are involved, raw materials.
Huge factor. And inadequate supplier oversight is a definite risk if you don't properly vet and monitor your suppliers.
You could get substandard materials coming in.
Precisely. Which can obviously compromise the final product quality. Garbage in, garbage out, basically.
So strict supplier controls are needed.
Absolutely. Rigorous qualification programs before you even start using a supplier.
Right.
Regular audits of their facilities. And clear quality agreements laying out expectations.
Makes sense. One last area.
Yeah.
What about after the product is already out there on the market?
Yeah, post-market surveillance and complaint handling, that's vital. Sometimes companies stumble here.
How so?
Maybe not investigating customer complaints thoroughly enough. Or failing to report serious problems or adverse events back to the FDA promptly, especially for medical devices. That's medical device reporting, MDR. It's mandatory.
So the job isn't done once the product ships.
Not at all. You have responsibility to monitor how it performs in the real world. It's crucial for catching safety issues you might have missed earlier.
So robust complaint handling systems.
Yes. Clear procedures for intake, investigation, trend analysis. And for devices, ironclad systems for MDR compliance, catching and reporting safety signals quickly.
Wow, okay. That paints a clear picture of the challenges. Let's flip it now. What are the best ways for companies to stay ahead of the curve, to build really strong quality systems proactively?
Well, first foundational thing is just staying informed. Actively.
How to do that?
Subscribing to FDA updates is a start. Attending industry webinars, conferences, tracking enforcement trends, seeing what the FDA is citing companies for, keeping an eye on new guidance docs or upcoming rule changes.
So continuous learning, basically.
Yeah, it has to be. Things change. Beyond that, fostering a real quality-driven culture is massive.
We mentioned culture earlier. How does that work in practice?
It really has to come from the top. Leadership needs to constantly stress that quality is paramount, maybe even over, say, short-term production targets.
Setting the tone.
Exactly. And making sure employees feel safe, even encouraged to speak up if they see a quality issue. No fear of blame.
You see something, say something, approach to quality?
Kinda, yeah. Then, more formally, internal audits are key.
Checking yourself before the FDA checks you.
That's the idea. Regularly reviewing your own systems, records, training. Find the gaps yourself. And mock inspections can be really valuable too.
Like a dress rehearsal for an FDA visit.
Pretty much. It helps gauge readiness, identify weak spots under pressure, and gets everyone familiar with the process.
Smart. Any role for technology in these best practices?
Oh, huge role. Leveraging technology is almost essential now. We talked about EQMS, electronic batch records, automated tracking systems, digital audit trails.
Makes things more efficient, fewer errors.
Generally, yes. Streamlines compliance, reduces manual errors. But, and this is important, any electronic system has to comply with 21 CFR Part 11.
The rules for electronic records and signatures.
Correct. Can't just use any software. It needs to meet FDA requirements for security, audit trails, etc.
Okay. And finally, with limited resources, how should companies prioritize?
Using a risk-based approach. That's really the smartest way. Focus your efforts where the risk is highest. Identify the processes, suppliers, or product attributes that pose the greatest potential danger to quality or safety. Use formal risk management tools, like those in ICH Q9 guidelines.
So concentrate your fire on the biggest threats.
Exactly. Implement stronger controls and more frequent checks in those high-risk areas. It's more effective than trying to treat everything exactly the same. Be proactive where it matters most.
This has been incredibly insightful. So if we boil it down, the big takeaways seem to be definitely keep up with the major regulatory changes, QMSR for devices, FSMA traceability, Pharma's QMM focus.
Stay ahead of those curves.
And double down on controls, right? Especially suppliers and data integrity. That keeps coming up.
Absolutely critical.
Investing in digital tools seems like a smart move, too.
It really is, if done right. Compliance with Part 11 is key.
And underpinning it all is that quality culture, getting everyone on board.
That's the foundation, really. You can have all the systems in the world, but if the culture isn't right,
it falls apart. And for you listening, it's worth remembering these aren't just bureaucratic hoops companies jump through.
No, not at all. These regulations directly impact your health and safety. They're the reason you can have a basic level of trust in the medicine you take, the food you buy, the medical devices people rely on.
They're designed to prevent harm, ensure quality, ensure reliability.
Exactly. It's about safeguarding public health.
So we've peeled back a layer today on the framework ensuring quality for these essential products. Now that you have this glimpse, what other aspects of product safety, maybe regulation, are you curious about now?
Yeah, it's a really complex ecosystem, isn't it? Bringing these products to us safely and effectively, lots more to explore.
Thank you, viewers, for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with your colleagues. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking that subscribe button below so you never miss out on valuable insights. I'm Brian Edmonds, signing off. See you in the next one.